Yo, yo, yo. Will, what's up? Cloud, Martin, Oki, JH, members A7, Glenn, Brett, John, Simo, Oki, if I didn't see your name already, what's up? Jake, Mats, Daniel, Z, Nikki, Devin, Daniel, what's up? If you guys can like the video, I'd appreciate it. Please. Harris, good morning. Tan, what's up? Alright, let me check. I believe we have a news event driver today, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's just orange. Yeah, it looks like tomorrow there's one, and then Friday there's two. Couple things on the week. Oki, appreciate it. Alright, let's get into today. So we were talking about last night. Since we closed above the mean threshold of that bearish order block on the daily chart, that basically was telling us that we should look for confirmation of trading towards this buy side liquidity, which is this high. We actually traded to it, took it out. I would say it's in a bit of a weird spot as far as where price is at currently, and the reason I say that is because you guys can see the screen, right? I want to make sure. Yeah, it looks like it. The reason I say that is because we gapped higher, which left a liquidity void underneath us. And anytime there's liquidity voids or volume imbalances that are open, it makes me weary of trying to trade price away from that, especially if it hasn't been really traded to. So I'll show on lower time frames where that's open, where that could potentially be traded to. The fact that we've taken out this high in here as well could give the idea of potential retracement. I mean, overall, where we're at now and where we could go, you have to start looking at potential all-time high again. I mean, that's just where we're at. When that will happen, I don't know. Even this high here, that would be the next draw on liquidity. So we can completely get rid of this here and start looking at this order flow in here, and we can take away the new week opening gaps. And this is what I'm referring to, is really like this massive, well, this liquidity void in here. Anytime a liquidity void is open, it's a major draw on liquidity. And it's something that I'm very weary of trading against. I would rather trade it into it. Majority of the time, especially even on a Sunday to Monday open, if that's open going into a Monday morning session, I'm targeting that. So you have to be wary of that. If you guys can like the video, I appreciate it. We're only at 28 likes. If you can get it to 50, I would really, really appreciate it. So 4-hour time frame, we took out the buy side liquidity, which is here. And this is everything we discussed in the weekly forecast. And this is what I mean by looking at two sides and saying, well, we're building the bullish bias, saying, look, if it goes higher, these are the targets I'm looking at. This would be the reason for it. If it doesn't, obviously we have another reason as well. Currently, this is one-sided to me. This is what I mean by like a one-sided trading this sort of. Overall, is I really can't make the case for lower prices. Short term, yes, filling in basically the opening gap from today, that could be a possibility. But overall, I believe we're going to trade towards this high up here, at least. So for the remainder of the week, I mean, the overall bias would be looking for that. Does that mean that I can't go against it? No. but you have to understand the overall direction as far as where you're going before you do anything else. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you look at yesterday, we talked about this last night in the daily log, is if you look at some of the conditions that at least I've operated in, and it's almost down to a T, the AM sessions have been really shitty the last couple weeks, where the PM session ends up either expanding or doing something in the afternoon, lunch session, or it doesn't do anything the rest of the day. So when you look at this, and I know there's critics and things like that, you can look at it and say, well, how do I know when to only trade the PM session? How do I know when that's the best time to only trade the PM session? Well, I don't think there's many rules or surrounding evidence or ideas from ICT to only know when PM session is going to move, beautifully, and AM is not. Those are just rules and disciplines that you have, and mine is to only trade the AM session. So you just have to stick with it. It is what it is. That's a variable that will change. The AM session will not always be shitty, and you're just going to have to deal with it. If you're somebody that likes to trade AM session and PM session and do everything at once, I mean, that's fantastic. I've came to the conclusion I don't want to do that. So I have to stick with AM session, regardless if it's shitty, and the PM session is great. If you look at yesterday, everything panned out exactly what I was looking at. It just happened on the PM session. So it is what it is. You can't pick and choose when you're going to trade the perfect conditions. If you chase that, then you're going to fall into this never-ending loop of trying to chase perfectionism and chase the holy grail, which all in reality is what that means is you don't like losing. Obviously we don't like losing, but you don't want to lose at all. And you're trying to chase something that is never attainable. You're always going to lose. You're always going to find shitty conditions and trade in shitty conditions. It just is what it is. I know when those conditions start to change and the AM session provides me moves that I really, really do enjoy, it's going to be very easy. I could sit here and talk about psychology all day long because I get so many questions over it. And it just shows to the extent of which these concepts, as much as you even know them, it really doesn't matter, man. Like, as much as you believe that if you just knew everything and you knew exactly when price is going to print, it still wouldn't matter. Most people cannot handle losing several times in a row. They can't handle losing streaks. They can't handle drawdown. They can't hold their composure and just stick with the process when they're going through those losing streaks. I mean, you see me last week, that was a losing week. I mean, this week, you could say it's only been one day. And people start freaking out. I mean, that's what consistent profitability looks like. Some weeks start out where you're losing and you end up profitable. And you're going to do that over and over and over and over, like weeks on end, where you're continuously doing that. So, man, it feels like this is work, man. Like, you have to constantly keep working yourself out of drawdown at the beginning of the week and end off profitable. Or you have a couple weeks or maybe a few weeks of, not winning. And people think, well, this is not working. I'm broken. I can't win. And they start freaking out. They don't have composure. But when you're going through those drawdowns, you have to be able to get yourself out of it at least once. Because if you can get yourself out of drawdown once with pure logic, not over leveraging, not gambling, but through pure logic and evidence of following your model, then you can rely on that in the future. And when you go into those periods of, well, is it just me that, logically, when you review it, is it me who is screwing this all up? Or is it just the conditions that I'm in? And to me, it's been the conditions. I've had some really good executions and biases, and it just hasn't panned out. So hopefully it makes sense. I had so many questions over the last several days. As far as today, let's take a look at, this is what I'm referring to. This right here is going to pop up here in a second. So this new day opening gap, if you go down to it, this is something that I may believe is going to be a draw on liquidity. I don't know if that's going to be today or tomorrow. I don't want to be in the business of really picking a top in this environment, but that is something that I'm keeping my eye on because if you go down these lower time frames, you'll see it's really not been traded to. You have to go down to like a 1 minute to really get it. And this is what I mean. We've only had buy-side liquidity really deliver. So anytime you have a new day opening gap or liquidity void, something like that, If price is only, and I know price is open and we're moving higher, I'm not concerned with it. If price is only moved higher through it, which is only, in my eyes, delivered buy side, you would like to see another pass through it on the other side, which will load here in a second. So some of the private group guys, you've seen that. Do I still look at dollar index? Yeah, I'll still utilize dollar index, and those are all really weekly forecast type of things. I can tell you I would not be wanting to long this today. If price continuously keeps pressing higher, then I'm probably not doing anything with it. Remember, the next strong liquidity would really be, it would be this high up here, but within, or at least underneath that high, there's a sell side imbalance. And you can refine this on the hourly or even the 4 hour. Yeah, so some of you are saying decoupled, and that's a good observation. So what is ES doing? ES isn't doing anything while NQ is moving higher. So is that a good place to be looking at saying, well, I should be trading that? No. Even if you had a framework, a model, and everything was there, and you see that type of condition, that's where I'm not, I won't touch it. I won't do anything with it. Excuse me, I think I might have a garbage truck banging around there. Dow Jones also going lower. Yeah, I don't place a whole bunch of emphasis on YM anymore. It's not very important, at least to me. So we'll just sit and watch, see what ends up unfolding. The only issue with shorting is I really don't want to pick up top in a very bullish market. That's a little concerning to me. But I will say that the opening range gap will be beneath price. So that was yesterday's close, and then today's opens here. I'm gonna mark out a few sell side liquidity pools. If we do end up dropping lower, we have pre-open lows down here, one a session lows down here as well. And we mark out, we have the opening range gap as a, if you want to just use that as a short-term target, something to, even if it goes into about 25% of it, that's a short-term easy target. Sorry, I gotta move the mic here. Let's take a look at, I want to observe this real quick. It's a 15-second chart. Let's look at the way we've moved away from this balanced price range. Inversion, sell side imbalance there. We moved away from it. And I do think we could gravitate towards probably 21,900. The reason for that is because of the opening range gap. That's exactly where we opened. So right around that area is where we could possibly gravitate towards. Now, what do rules say? Rules say that, as far as me, I'm not going to be entering into price at least until the macro. It's a good point, Will, as well. A lot of the things point, and price could still just keep pressing higher and higher all day. But since we've been at a premium, basically, since we've opened, we've only traded higher throughout the entirety of today's candle or range overnight. We've only pressed higher, and we've only continuously have taken buy-side liquidity, while left sell side, we have an opening range gap that's beneath us. A lot of things point where above midnight open puts you in a premium, above 8:30 open puts you in a premium. A lot of those indications point to shorting, really. There's bearish SMT at the top here. A lot of things point to lower prices. So right now I kind of have to lean with that. There's just nothing for me to really long. If we could just take short-term sell-side liquidity and then run it higher again, that's a very well possibility as well. Yes, ES is stuck. This mic has got to move. Dude, it got cold here. So very decoupled open. ES lower, NQ higher. Yeah, I saw that. Here's, I mean, it was cold. It got down to 34 last night. That's actually generally cold. I mean, not your guys' cold, but... So this is the first presented FEG, which is actually wrong. To be honest with you, this is actually wrong. That's not the first presented. Because you can't include 930. It has to be 931, 932, or 933. It cannot be this. So that's not the first presented. Which one indicators, you have to be aware of them. Ah, I see, okay. Oh, we don't trade today. Gun to my head, I do think we'll run lower, but just have to wait and see. This is up close candle here, bear shorter block. We'll see if, yeah, no, my bad. If it appears on the RTH gap, then yes, it's valid. ES is still trading lower, but they're just bit decoupled. In terms of trusting one side or not, if you're just tuning in, if you could like the video, I'd appreciate it. Why do some people include the volume bounce, some people don't? Well, it's probably just either they forget or they don't know that you're supposed to. What am I listening to? Some house music on YouTube. Can you hear it or no? Not really. That's probably because this is closer to my headset now. This is what I mean by at least the first 20 or 30 minutes. If you're trying to operate in these first 20, 30 minutes, man, usually it becomes very difficult to try to pick a spot in here. And I'm very weary of New York session now. I mean, the last 2 weeks have really proven New York has really not been fruitful. It's been pretty damn awful, to be honest with you. So we'll see if we end up running for this high that was set this morning or not. Technically, there's bullish S&T at the lows there. ES made lower lows, and Q did not. So we'll see which one is truly leading it. My TV shut off? I guess it did. Today seems like it's going to be a difficult one. Already based off what I'm seeing. And even if you're trying to go long, because the ES is nowhere near it, terms of following it. That's something where I just would not be willing to trade it. Anytime ES is that disconnected or decoupled, I'm not going to be trading NQ. Could you move your screen to the left so you could see the time? Yeah, I could probably figure a template out for it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Mantis, I appreciate it, yeah. I don't think it'll ever happen, dude. JH, no, it's not backwards thinking. It's actually a good question. I mean, yeah, in this situation, if you were to be looking at shorts, you would be looking at ES to see if that's continuously pressing lower, and you'd want to see NQ move in sync with it. But now that we have relative equal highs here, and we have relative equal lows resting underneath us, both situations are, yeah. Yeah, and they're both quite disconnected as far as relationships. I'm not going to be touching it until something happens. We're at 68 likes. If we could get this to 100, that would be great. JH, based off your question as well, if this was to go higher, you would also want to see, since NQ's leading it, you'd also want to see ES starting to move higher as well. So just flip your question, I guess. So we're just moving into the macro. We'll see what that ends up doing here. Kaleo trades, yeah, I can adjust the template. So we're digging up into, if you go out to your 4 hour, even your hourly chart, looks like about to get into this imbalance here. This thing may just keep pressing higher all day long, so trying to go against it may be a bad decision. Even though there's sell side, even the opening range gap is beneath us. If something is very, very heavy, to whether upside or downside, trying to pick a top in that, you're just going to end up hurting yourself over and over again. I appreciate it, Will. Thank you. So 950 to 1010. We'll watch and see. People must be trying to pick the top. Probably. As far as this side, running higher, could I have longed it this first presented FEG? Sure, but again, still not within the rules to be. This is the macro here. That's when I start hunting for price. So, nor did we know for sure whether this is going to trade higher or not. I mean, you could have taken a chance on it, but 22008. Now it looks like this red box, that is the hourly imbalance. So far, this is very boring to me. What did you say, Accidental? That's funny. ES looks like it's completely joined NQ. Like, what type of answer is that, Tanya? You cannot give that answer. I love watching other streamers, man. I mean, as far as what price is doing in here, I mean, I'm not talking a whole lot, but there's nothing to talk about. This thing keeps running. I'm not doing anything with it. So we scroll up to the 4 hour. Again, this imbalance, which is on the hourly as well. We're within that, and the high at 22,100. Did I just fart? No, it's my chair. That is more than likely the draw today. I don't think any lower price is going to come out of this. This is really, really heavy to the upside. So trying to short this would be, to me, you're just trying to pick a top. It's not fun. Am I in Florida? Yeah. And then if you refine that 4 hour, the hourly is right there. So we're within that currently. But I don't think this thing's going to stop until we achieve probably that buy side there. Could there be short-term retracements before we get there, of course? But overall, I don't think we're going to stop. I think that we may just continuously keep pressing higher throughout the rest of today. Yeah, anytime you leave an opening range gap like that, you don't even trade down into it. We didn't trade into it at all. That's basically a sign, especially if it shows characteristics, you're probably going to be really heavy on one side. It means you're leaving that completely open. So look at your hourly and the 4 hour we just closed. Remember your daily chart. That's really what we're looking at. Probably going to be a boring session, to be honest. Emma will sit here and see, but so far, I don't see anything in here that I'm really enjoying. ICT opening a Telegram group. Now he's just inviting you all to the charter member group that we're in. I don't know, the dude's off on a hinge right now, dude. I swear, that dude's always tweaking. He is the trippiest dude I've ever seen. We had a massive drop lower in here. Could that just be a retracement to go higher again? Possibly. Oh, we're at 82 likes. If you guys can get this to 100, I'd appreciate it. That has been quite boring, but... So from this dealing range low to that high, we dropped into a discount. Basically, we met equilibrium there. Imbalance here on the 5 minute. Even your first presented, we almost touched. Yeah, well, you guys saw the messages. I don't know. It's very strange. Even look at what ES is doing. I mean, it's very strange, just fidgety price action. I'm not trying to mess with this currently. In these situations, I just scroll Twitter. What in the world did you just type X on? trying to learn Korean. Well, where did that come from? There's that amount of information to make you properly sound. Yeah, I mean, he just keeps releasing new and new things. I mean, to the point where you just have to say, look, you know what you're doing, you know what you're looking for. Everything else is just upon you. Joshua, what up? Marianas? Yeah, I mean, that's basically where I'm at as well. Is anytime he releases new information or new concepts, I'll take a look and see if it's something that's useful. There's plenty of new things within the last couple of years that I haven't been really watching him as much, but I'll see other people use it and incorporate it. Should I go to Tanya's stream and tell her to come here? Like, how does she have 3,000 viewers, dude? That's just insanity. $3,000 is nutty. Because I know I can look at it. Let's see. CJ, do you focus on the paid mentorship stuff? Well, I mean, he hasn't really posted anything as far as paid mentorship stuff in like 2 years. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not hating. 3,000 is crazy. If you think about like regular streamers, I mean, 3,000, even 164 is pretty crazy. This is all quite boring to me, to be honest. Just a study, if you look at like your 15-second chart. Once we drop down into this relative discount, we dropped into, see a small little inefficiency there, bull shoulder block. As soon as we moved above this imbalance, that becomes what? Your inversion there, we dropped down into that. Down close candles there, bull shoulder block, we extend higher. Nikki, well, I wish I was live streaming PM session last week or so. Would have been really nice. Brianna's, yeah. it's only 10:12. Dude, days like this feel like forever. I think I've been here for 2 hours. There's a chapter. While we're sitting here, I guess we could do something productive, I guess. Yes, I want something. Again, this book, right here, boom. There is a section in it, and I think a lot of people trip over this. It's boredom. Especially, I mean, boredom or laziness, but really boredom. Let me see if I can find something useful. He said, yeah, let's read it. And that's another reason why I don't trade for very long. I mean, an hour and a half is really, that's all I needed. Boredom could kick in, loss of focus, things like that. There's not a whole lot I can really read in here, to be honest. I'd rather pass up for boredom waiting for a show. I'm out here reading a book on stream. I have to go to this section here. I'm just entirely bored, man. That's a good question, CJ. Any hobbies that fill in the dead time? Are you saying like in between right now? Or are you saying like after the charts? I feel like it has an ES, big move down. Would you consider that? Leo, I mean, that would be if you're looking at just simply a continuation and drop into a discounted inefficiency, yeah. After the charts, I mean, working out. There's a bunch of different hobbies that I do. I mean, I'm pretty boring at the same time. I mean, throughout the week, I'm really just working. Like, Monday through Friday, I'm focused on this. And on the weekends, I'll try to find some other things, but I'm pretty boring, to be honest. I want to learn shooting. Heard, yeah, Rivals, I do want to get into that. Video games. Pickleball with old folks. I've only played pickleball once in my life. You can see I'm quite tired today. I'm not really in the mood to talk, to be honest. So 5 days a week. I mean, for the most part. I mean, I have other shit I do. I mean, I honestly am like brain dead today. I can't even think. So maybe if everybody leaves, maybe some fun will happen. Dude, where's my geek? Just joined CJ. Any trades through? Yeah, I already took, what did we take? 14 longs. I think we're up 1,000 handles this morning already. You missed it. I swear that's my biggest number one pet peeve. Not to pick on you, but that's my number one pet peeve comment. Did you get snow there? No, we didn't, Mantis, luckily. I had multiple people text me about that today. I woke up and I'm like, what? See you in Florida by the end of February. Hey, if you're down here, actually, let me know. Okie. I haven't had much of those this year. I should see. I know it's been boring, but if things start to come into fruition, I might do something with it. It's a really boring day. CJ, what's your morning routine? I mean, it's really not a whole lot. I mean, an ideal day is... I used to think I would have to do a whole lot. I mean, this is all personality-wise, but over the years, I've really just grown accustomed to... If I can wake up, shower, coffee, and if anything, prep my mind with some note cards and things as far as rules and injecting logic statements. I mean, that's all I need. I used to have to think I would have to, or at least like in my younger years, I'd try to be working out, doing meditation and breathing exercises and shit like that. That's just a little much, man. Like, to try to keep that consistent for a long period of time, I think you're gonna burn yourself out. I mean, that's just me personally, but I also think if you get to a point where you have control over your emotions and you know what you're looking for and you're doing the right things, I mean, I don't need to sit here and prep myself for an hour straight before I get on these charts. I mean, if I get on these charts, I know what I'm looking for. If another comes into fruition, I don't take a trade. If my emotions start coming into play, that's where we have injecting logic statements and things that sit in front of us. And if I've taken a max loss for the day, then I just move away from the charts. I mean, Musa, yeah, I don't have breakfast. Nikki, yeah, I've been on both spectrums. Like, I've been on where I just wake up, go straight to the charts, and that's it. I've also been on the other spectrum of doing huge morning routines. I mean, I think there's a healthy balance in between both of them. But I know my personality is like, if I try to do that for a long period, like, I have to go outside and run and stretch and read and meditate and do breathing exercise. Like, dude, that's just an exhausting list of things that it doesn't guarantee you any more success. Doesn't Jared talk about being too disciplined and being a bad thing? That I don't know. I actually have never really read that. It might be. It might be within the discipline section. If you could find the chapter or page of that, okay, yeah, definitely read it. Show us your room. I could show you my trading setup. Ow. I mean, it's not a whole lot. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. How does this work? We have, I don't know where this is, the camera's at, but that's the main one. Then you have this. Then you have that. And then you have this one over there. Now I gotta check the camera. Cliff, I don't think they're even 40. I don't. To be honest, I know I have an ultra wide screen that you're looking at. I don't know how big this is. I really don't. It's pretty damn big. Then I have another wide screen above me. It's also very big. To be honest, I really don't know. They're quite large. Accidental, thank you. Tyndall argues that when somebody is over-disciplined, they are so focused on controlling their behavior and staying rigidly within their set of rules or standards, they become overly self-critical. Yeah, I just read over the self-critical part too, like over the weekend. I found something, and he said self-critical people, which I had a huge issue with self-criticism until I kind of read that chapter, is the currency. Dude, what did he say? It was such a good quote. The currency is really losses. Take care of your eyes. Blue light glasses. I know I need to get some. I used to have some, but I left them when I moved. And I'm telling you, all your mistakes and all your psychological problems, I'm telling you, if you put the work into it, this book will solve it. It's not a magic pill, but I'm telling you, dude, any issue you've ever had in terms of trading, you can literally go into this book and look at it and almost solve it. I mean, of course, it takes work to solve it, but I'm telling you, this book, like when we talk about psychological issues, like I can go into almost any section of this book and figure it out. If somebody asks me a question about any psychological thing, I could literally go into it, not just some bullshit cliche quote, like an actual true in-depth reasoning and logic behind it, and then figure out how to solve it. It's the only psychological book out there that I've ever found that could actually solve your issues. Yeah, and I also, I mean, I've had this book for almost probably, I'm going to go on almost 3 years of having this book. And I mean, I've had to reread it. I've had to go back into it countless amount of times. And I mean, it's not something you just read and it's all fixed. I mean, it takes years of work even within it. What books would you recommend for psychology? This right here. It's the only thing you would ever need. I'm telling you. This is the only book you would ever need. And I don't promote shit like that. Like, genuinely, this is the only book you would ever need. If you actually do the work inside of this, for some people it's too much. They're lazy and they don't want to do it. But genuinely, this book, it's the holy Bible of trading in my eyes. It's the ICT of psychology. Everything else to me is fugazi. It's all bullshit. Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, you should probably read the first few chapters to figure out the system behind it, and then go into the chapter that you struggle with the most. I mean, if you struggle with tilt, fear, greed, whatever it is, then you go into that. I'd argue 90% of traders argue with probably tilt and revenge trading the most. I mean, I would also argue FOMO, but I think FOMO is really solved. I've never really. I mean, of course, I've had it. But I think FOMO is solved by experience. If you sit in front of the charts long enough, and you know what you're looking for, I think you'll kind of get over fear of missing out eventually. Even if you never did the work on it in this book, I think. Because fear of missing out, man. I mean, the only thing that's going to end your entire trading career is probably tilt. I mean, that's the biggest one. Tilt's probably the only thing that's going to end your entire trading career in one go. I mean, you could have the best few months in the entire world, and then you just have one bad day where you go on tilt, and it's all gone, man. I mean, I've done it. It's the only thing. But fear of missing out, I mean, if you do that every single day, obviously that's an issue. But I mean, if you have instances, and I have instances where I have fear of missing out and I make the mistake and I go into it, but that's also mistake tilt. Fear of missing out goes directly into mistake tilt. Because as soon as you have fear of missing out and you make a mistake by jumping in the market too early or whatever, may be too late, that it basically translates right back to tilt, because then you get pissed off at yourself. You're like, well, why did I do that? And it goes into revenge trading. Like, it's just all funnel basically back to tilt every single time. Every single time. That's all it is. That's a good also question. You know, like for me, I'd always try to find sometimes the reasonings behind the loss. But eventually you just have to give it up and say, look, there is no reasoning behind it besides simply variance. Like a random series of events, random series of results that have been dished out to you. That's it. Of course, can we look at it from a technical side and try to figure it out? But if you just can't find it, then it is what it is. That's part of the system. And I can't harp more on the fact that a lot of this is based off of probabilities and variables. And if you get used to that, man, you'll stop worrying so much about results. Accidental, most definitely. But you know, he knows the psychological things. it's a lot easier to talk about these things than it is to deal with them. Jabbers, that's fantastic. Like, especially if you're in drawdown and you're dealing with a whole bunch of emotions, which drawdown, that's the hardest point. That is the hardest point to be dealing with emotions, is when you're in drawdown. Because you're losing constantly, things are not working. It's hard to have composure and stick with a strategy and be able to, do the right things, because you're having an accumulated built-up of emotions over and over every single day, week, where you're losing, things are not going your way. It's not a good feeling. It's very easy to handle your psychology when you're winning. You don't even need to handle psychology. Things just are panning out the way you wanted it to. Jabbers, yeah, I would watch for overconfidence. Trust me, I'm not wishing anything upon you, but that statement there at the end, I would watch for it. Sometimes we can overlook at that and be like, I finally conquered my tilt. Trust me, I've done that where I think I've conquered it. Oh man, does it rear its head at you? And then you end up fucking going on tilt, and you thought you had it conquered, and you're sitting there back at square one. You're like, damn. Just a precaution. Will I be staying on 11:30? Probably not, dude. I want this shit to end already. I'm tired. I'm done. This is boring. It really is. It's because it's not about willpower either. It's really not. That's what he talks about. Like when you go down to the real psychology of it, is none of it's willpower. Because once your emotions take over your frontal cortex, which is what all your logical thinking derives from, your emotions take that over, and now you can no longer think. So only really willpower is being able to recognize the build-up, the rise of the emotion. If I can see the pattern of the things that I do and say, and before that emotion takes over me, and I can kind of decrease it before it fully takes over, then that's using willpower. See, Jabbers, that's why I like this book, because I mean, it in theory, I mean, that's great. But again, that's where frontal cord, like when you go into the actual, your human analogy of it, once that takes over your actual frontal cortex, where everything derives from as far as logical thinking in these markets, I mean, you're done. You're toast. So I can try to sit here and we can try to let the emotions pass us, but if we're not actually decreasing the emotion with logical thinking, then it's completely over with. I mean, how many times have you gone on tilt where you're basically, you blow your entire account, and then after the whole session's done, it's like you wake up, you're like, what the fuck happened? It's because you're taken over. You're hijacked. You're hijacked by those emotions. So for me, I don't want to, it's not that I don't want to sit with those emotions. I want to decrease them. I do not want them to build up. As soon as I start feeling those emotions, I immediately want to de-escalate them. Yeah, Jabbers, I'm telling you, read this book, man. This book will explain something that most psychology people never go over. I mean, it goes down to human analogy, psychology, everything. And then you decrease the emotion by looking at, when you actually go be introspective and you actually look at why it is that you're mad or fear missing out or whatever it may be, and you go into the root cause of it, and then you have certain injecting logic statements that basically diffuses it. Those are true, real ways of actually solving your psychological issues. I want to stay on here till the macro. Man, I am fucking bored out of my mind. Respect for your mental state. Very inspiring. Thank you, brother. What would you need to get out of boredom? I mean, I would have to see probably a whole lot. I mean, I'm honestly just sitting here just because. Are you profitable on a monthly basis? Yeah, for the most part. And I think that's too, again, if you're being real about consistent profitability, you're not going to be consistently profitable every single month. And people think that that's what you need to make money. That's not true. You could have 6 months out of the year where you're profitable and 6 months where you're losing. But if those 6 months are, in turn, the return is better than the 6 months of losing, you're going to end up profitable. You don't need to be profitable every single month. It's just not realistic either. But I know within these concepts in these community, people have been psyoped in this community and within trading to believe that every single trade, every single week, that's consistent. That's not consistent profitability whatsoever. People, you really have to think really deep about what consistent profitability is. If you really want to achieve it, it's not being profitable every single week. It's not being profitable every single month. Well, then how do you end up profitable? That doesn't make any sense if you're losing. Well, again, you're not looking at, when you look at risk to reward, when you go on winning streaks and when you have profitable months, those in turn will be more than your losing months or weeks. But you can't let those losing weeks be outrageously large. You have to keep it to a minimum. That's why you reduce risk when you're losing. You reduce frequency. You're on a little bit more edge and awareness of the conditions and how you're performing. And when you're winning, you're doing a good job at managing risk, managing profits. You're not making small mistakes and things that would eat at your profit. I mean, if you look at, yes, that's such a good will. If you look at even a negative RR, you could have a -2 to a +1, and you could still be profitable with it. That's where you have leverage in this game, is because of risk to reward and because of variables and probabilities. Those are things that you have to really consider and look into. Again, that's just where I think people, especially my younger self, I thought consistent profitability is every single week I was winning or every single month I was winning. I mean, it's just not true. You could be -2 your first month, -2%. Next month you could be +6. What does that leave you with? That leaves you with, you're up 4%. So you're still profitable even within 2 months. I mean, you could have 3 months of -2%, -2%, -2%, and the next 3 months you end up 12%, and now what does that leave you with? You're up +3% positive. And then you go on another month where you're positive. It's just because people look at day-to-day results and they look at every single day as, this has to be a winner. They get so solely focused on day-to-day results. It's not, and I'm not saying it's just other people. It was me. It was me too. Of course, that's what we aim at. I'm not trying to lose. I'm not trying to be a loser. I'm not trying to lose every single week, but I also understand that's the reality of it. It just is. JH, I saw your comment. Yeah, most definitely it is. What would make this not boring? I mean, I don't really see anything in here. I mean, even if this was to go to the downside, I don't even really see a particular reason for it. I think we'll probably just keep pressing higher, to be honest with you. I'm just not in really the mindset of longing this. We're already too deep in a premium. I'm aware that a potential retracement could happen. If I was to go short, I know it's going to be against the overall order flow, so it's me picking a top in this market. I mean, yeah, and sometimes there is no thing I'm really waiting for. I'm just sitting here, to be honest with you. I want to wait for the macro, but dude, I'm almost done here. I almost have more likes than I have viewers here. So yeah. So we're just inside of the macro, and this is basically the only thing I'm waiting for, or trying to watch. Only issue I have with shorting is you're trying to pick a top in this market, and this thing could just keep extending higher, keep moving higher. So, yeah, you would need some solid evidence to short it. I mean, just because there's a sell side imbalance here and we moved lower, that's not really instigating a potential short. Like, for me to feel confident in a short, I'd probably need a run underneath this low. I don't even know about that. Accidental, what the fuck? There's bullish SMT underneath. The ES made a lower low. Hourly could form an imbalance. Could we drop into that after in the next hour? It could be a possibility. Again, I'm not trying to pick a top in this. It's not something that's very logical. What are these dad jokes? And days like this, are you interested in trading PM session? No. I just have a strict rule. Again, it comes down to rules of discipline. Like, I know I'm mentally burnt after an hour and a half of sitting here. So I know, like, I try to come back in the PM session, based off of data that I've collected, I've seen with it myself. I just don't perform well. Could I perform well some days and it's just consistently over a long period of time? Probably not. If you want to collect data and figure out what do you do the best over a long period of time, you have to stay consistent with a certain strategy, certain variables of time, and things that you execute on. So I only stick with New York. I mean, that's just what I trade and what I'm comfortable with doing. Doesn't mean you could trade PM session and have great success. You could do AM, PM, you could do the whole day long and just find great success. It's just not me, I also have a life to live. I don't really want to be stuck on here. So we'll see if we run for this low probably, and then you'd be looking at basically the CE of that long wick there. Make that a little less bold. So if you look at your hourly, we closed there, and we left this imbalance. So even if we were to go higher, we could completely leave this open, but we may want to trade down into that, which would give the idea of shorting it. I want to try shorting here. And if I find some ground, then I may add into it. It's permissible to even get into this imbalance above it. That'd be okay. If it completely inverses it, then we're probably heading higher again, obviously. But I would just want to see if this would be willing to go lower or not. We have the breaker, this inefficiency here. Stop loss is above that inefficiency. $15-minute bear shoulder block as well. If we close above that, then I'm going to close out of it. But it has to close above it. So again, this is a prime example of if you're overall in a very one-directional market environment and you try to counter it, this may happen to you. The only thing I'm really doing with this idea is looking for a little bit deeper run, possibly into the hourly imbalance. If that doesn't work, I could reverse this. If I want to stay on here, I could. If this ends up getting stopped, I could reverse this, because at this point I knew if I got stopped, it's probably going to head towards these highs up here. It's not revenge trading. I just know that all we did in here was just take out internal sell side, which is here. So if this breaker doesn't hold and this inefficiency doesn't hold, it's because all that was just a run to internal sell side to possibly run higher. On the flip side, if this ends up working and drives lower, then I know it's just a deeper run into a discount. Ross, hopefully everything's okay on your end. I don't know. So there's that. I'm going to sit on here just to prove my point of this is just simply an internal run on sell side and then reverses to go back higher. You could also look at this saying we're going inside of this premium. I don't believe that's true. If price is this bullish, again, anytime you're trying to counter something like that, you're going to get stopped. If it comes into fruition, then obviously I'm not going to take it. But all this was a run, internal sell side. Look at the 50% of this wick. We dropped into it. Wicks are what? They're gaps. So about 25% of it. So we form an inefficiency here. I'll be willing to long it. Because now I know this is just, all that was a run on internal sell side. And we're just going to continuously keep pressing higher. That's all this is. Now there's a difference between when you reverse a trade or you go back into the market and say, versus revenge trading, something like that. But if I can see with clear logic, okay, this is the reason why I was stopped out. I understood going into the trade what the other side could be. Inefficiency right there. Or not. Well, that's going to be it for me. Yeah, that's it for me. It has not been well, man. These morning sessions have not been well. Again. It is what it is. You can see emotions are stirring up. So, best thing for me to do is to log off. That's the best thing I could possibly do. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and do stupid things. So, that's going to be it for today. I will See y'all tomorrow.